From a very young age, Connor loved soccer, and his whole world revolved around soccer.
He's a perfect sports athlete in that he fit in that mold of togetherness, of we, all those intangible things that coaches can't really coach.
He was a competitor for sure. I mean, he was a keeper, so it's different from the other 10 players on the soccer field. There's people jumping, running, trying to tackle you, and I mean, he was amazing.
If you were on the opposite team, you would see this goalie and think, oh, he's a little bit smaller. So he didn't think much of it, but then he'd come out and just show everybody who he was.
He was always flying around, jumping in the air, and just a great player overall.
As the goalie, like, it's kind of, you see everything on the field. So he definitely took charge on the field when needed to. And I mean, it paid off because he was one of the best goalies I ever saw.
He would always be the one that cracks a joke. He was never in a bad mood, and he was also kind.
It was junior homecoming dance. It was the pictures, right? The pictures, all the kids were super excited.
So the spirit and the energy going in through that weekend was just super high. Everybody was on a different level. He came running in the door that afternoon from school. I was in the kitchen, and he's like, he was so excited. He's like, you should have seen it. He was, I was jumping 3 feet in the air at this pep rally, and they were taking pictures, and he was so proud of. Excuse me.
He was walking down the driveway, and I yelled, Connor, and he turned around. And one of the things that he and I always did was the whole "I got you, you got me" thing. And never did I know that would be the last time I would see my son. There's pictures of Connor sweating, soaking through his white shirt, just break dancing on the floor. It was just the time of his life.
So I did see him on the dance floor. He had lost his tie, and he was just having a good time.
And then we were just dancing and having fun. And then I remember before Connor had left, he had like tapped my shoulder, and I was like, oh, okay, like, are you leaving now? He was like, yeah, I'm about to go to get stuff for the party. I was like, okay, just be safe.
So the night of the crash, Connor hopped into the front seat of a vehicle with the driver who had been recently transferred to our school. And then Connor had yelled to a friend of his who he had become really close with recently, and Logan hopped into the back seat.
I mean, they were literally going maybe a mile and a half down the road to the house they were going to. And they didn't even make it 500 yards.
This new kid at the school, he took Connor and Logan with him, with Connor in the passenger seat and Logan in the back seat. He was hitting the curve right around the school that everybody knows not to take that curve too fast. Nael decided to put his foot on the gas and go. He lost control of the car and hit the tree.
Pulling up to the scene was, like something you see on TV or a movie. Emergency vehicles, lights, blocking off the road at one point. Tammy got out of the car and was rushing to try to get to Connor. She was literally, beating on the chest of the officer standing there at the caution tape, trying to get answers.
I remember distinctly jumping out of the vehicle and running to the car. I just wanted to get to my baby.
I just remember hearing a really loud scream. Like, it just looked like a really gut-wrenching scream from the site.
Am I thankful now that the officer held me back? I absolutely am. But you just wanted to be there. You just wanted to hold them while they took their last breath.
And then that's when I had to tell everybody else.
And I was like, you're lying. And he goes, Lindsay, no. Connor's dead. And I remember dropping my phone to the floor and just dropping right then and there.
That's when I lost it. I mean, I don't remember much after that. I just know I was screaming and crying and
We do know that the night of the crash, the driver was reckless and speeding, which is the two things that contributed to the death of all three of the boys.
Connor had a lot going for him. He had his whole life ahead of him. He'll never get to graduate. He'll never get to play in the big leagues like he always talked about, because his life was cut too short.
When Connor passed, I definitely fell into like a massive depression. I didn't really want to go to school anymore.
Tammy's, only boy is no longer in her life, and that's not something you ever get over. And it took us a long time. It took Tammy a long time to get to the point where we could rationalize how to get through day-to-day life.
I think as a parent, you're never prepared to lose your child. It's certainly not the natural order of things. So losing Connor, it's almost unexplainable. I don't know that there's enough adjectives to describe the pain of losing your son and the damage that it does, not just to Dan and I, not just to his siblings, but to our entire family, to our community. The impact of that crash that night and what it has done to so many people when it was so preventable. There's no doubt in our mind as to what happened that night. I think more concerning is why it happened and the things that shouldn't have happened.
I remember seeing him drive in the parking lot before, and I said to one of my friends, I was just like God forbid, but one day, like, he's going to get himself and somebody else killed.
Dozens of people came up to us after this accident saying they knew of the way that this young man drove, and it could have been prevented. If any of the parents, any of the bus drivers, any of the SRO officers, any of the students had the courage to call or say something, Connor would be with us today.
I distinctly remember him in the classroom talking about the driver, and students talking about how the driver drove very, very fast, a lot, and did a lot of reckless things in the car. And I remember Connor standing up at his desk, because half the time he couldn't sit, so he's standing up, flipping through his notebook, talking to me, and he looks over and he says, "Don't worry about it, Coach. I'll never get in that car with him."
I definitely do think that See Something, Say Something can resonate with young people because, like, I know, for me at least, when I saw the way Nail had drove in the parking lot, I definitely think I should have said something at that point, but I didn't. And so that's something that's always weighed on me, I think. If you see something, say something.
It has to come from kids being educated and kids making a stand to say, no, don't get in a car, or stop driving like that, or you need to stop, or no one's getting in a car with you ever, to actually make it work.
Really think about the consequences, and it's such a cliche, the consequences of your own actions, but I mean, it's true.
There's no doubt in my mind that the driver of that vehicle did not wake up and intend on harming himself or anyone else. But the choices that he made did exactly that. And Connor's death was 100% preventable.
I think that makes a good student athlete is just being able to take feedback regardless of it being negative, even though most times if it's feedback, it's to help you get better.
Those things are important, and to have that strength in a car would be similar to the kind of strength that Connor had on the field, in directing and supporting his team.
We watched Connor control the field. We watched him direct his teammates. We watched him groom them off of the field. It's no different when you're in a vehicle right? We need to be able to make those same correlations when we're in a vehicle. We need to know that we can speak up as a passenger and be safe. Connor had the ability to make me smile each and every day. He was so funny and he was so sweet and loving. I don't know that I'll ever smile or laugh the same way again.